Hi, this is Joshua Adams with Unueco Partio. I'm out at Winged Deer Park in Johnson City, Tennessee, and once again, it's a very beautiful day. So today, I was wanting to talk about a subject that's about enhancing freedom and liberty. Part of the Unueco Party philosophy, or at least part of my philosophy, is to have a minimum government regulation, somewhat like a libertarian. But I also understand that as the maturation of society does not necessarily allow us to be organized without any type of government, and we do need limits and boundaries to ensure that we do not infringe upon the rights of others, which is the other part of my philosophy. So that no individual's expression of freedom and liberty should interfere with another's individual's freedom of liberty. Sometimes we use proxies, such as corporations and other organizations, to infringe upon other people's liberties on our behalf. But I also would say, they also cannot infringe upon other people's individuals and liberties. Now, there's a broad subject that I'm usually regularly pretty concerned about. And in the news recently, in the U.S. state of Alabama, there has been a very restrictive law passed against abortion rights. Now, I'm not exactly going to talk about abortion today, but I would like to talk about sexuality in a very broad and vague sense. I believe that sexuality is probably the number one issue of our time. And perhaps it's been an issue that has been a great part of our concern throughout human documented history. So I think that there are several broad issues that are a part of the issue of sexuality. I think the most important would be gender inequality, but also I believe that marriage, healthcare, family planning, and also consent, or the ability to give consent, are also very important issues that fall under the issue of sexuality and within our freedoms and liberties. So I think the focus of this video is just basically to ask some questions. And I would be highly grateful for those who view this video or who participate on the unuecopartio.org website to go ahead and offer your perspective on these questions, ask your own questions, and I encourage debate. Because since sexuality is hugely important, I think that the different philosophies and pathways we take to enhance our freedom and liberty in regards to sexuality while not infringing upon the rights of others is kind of unlocks the door to the whole other spectrum of rights and responsibilities that we have to each other. So here's some of the questions that I have. With whom can someone be married to? And I ask that because depending on the culture you're in, or the faith you believe in, or the social class you are a part of, there are a lot of things that are considered taboo or forbidden. Is interracial marriage okay? Is interreligious marriage okay? How about between people of different nationalities? There are a lot of other parts within that, but with whom can we be married to? Next would be, who bears the responsibility of parenthood? A large part of the abortion debate is that it infringes, the forbidding of abortion is an infringement upon women's rights, and it's often a decision that's made by men. I know within the law in Alabama and some other states that men bear no responsibility in that decision. But, in some ways, men must also bear a financial responsibility. So, in the whole idea of parenthood, from the time a child is conceived through the time until they're an adult, who bears the responsibility of parenthood? How should that responsibility be split? And what ways can that responsibility be shared in such a way as the rights and liberties of both the child and the individuals who are parents are not infringed upon? Who bears the legal responsibility to an unborn child? I think I kind of covered that a little bit in the last question, but I just wanted to specifically offer the unborn child. Who bears the legal responsibility? And I also ask that because there's no state or nation that I am aware of that offers legal protections to unborn children. It's not a part of the U.S. Constitution. There is no one who can be a citizen until they are born. So, on that case, what is the legal status of unborn children? Should they have legal status? And if there is, how do we enforce that legal status without infringing upon the rights of the mother? What access to essential health care is required, such as, for the pregnant mother, or on the dark side, sexually transmitted disease? Do we have a right to just any type of access? Do we have a right to free access? Should there be equal access in enhancing our sexual prowess? I know here in the U.S., it is easy for men to get supplements such as Viagra to enhance their sexuality, but it's much harder for women to do so. Once again, that follows under gender inequality as well. Next couple questions are about consent. So what is the role of power and influence in regards to consent? Some of the taboos and stuff are about people who have power over others, such as teachers over children, or family members over children, or younger ones, professors over students. And this could be over any age, bosses over employees. Should any position, any relationship where there's a position of power be forbidden if there's someone under you, or in a less powerful role? Or do we also acknowledge that there are some who find power and influence to be quite attractive? So what is the role that power and influence in regards to consent? And then what role should society have in regulating one's sexuality? Should that be expressed within just one gender? Should homosexuality be limited or be just as allowed as heterosexuality? Should there be legal limits on partners? How should society regulate one's sexuality? And my last question on consent is, should there be age limits, or should there be, say, a psychological test that allows the consent, that determines when someone can give consent? Do they understand the consequences of their decisions? Now, that's not necessarily just a sexual one as well, but I think it's part of the whole maturation into adulthood. I'm not saying there should be, but should there be? And that also would be in regards to those who may have developmental disorders or psychological issues. Should there be some type of test to determine one's ability to give consent? And then, lastly, if one does give consent, should that consent always last, or must you always get consent each time a sexual act is initiated? In my relationships, I've always viewed that once you have consent, you kind of always have it until that person opts out. Once they no longer give their consent, and once that person opts out, you no longer have consent ever again until that person says, "Oh, you have consent." So how do we determine what is consent? How long that consent lasts for, and how do we honor that? How do we learn of the consent? Should it just be a verbal cue, or can it also be interpreted through body language or tone? So those are very complicated questions, and I do believe like I said earlier in the video, that the ways we go about to answering this type of question also can be a framework in establishing or enhancing our freedoms and liberties in respect to each other. So once again, I welcome you to go onto the unuecopartio.org website. Become a member, be involved. Your ideas are totally welcome, and challenge us, challenge each other. You are the start of something special. I truly believe this, and I know I cannot do this alone. I need you. So, in closing, once again, I'd like to say thank you, and I welcome you to the Unueco Partio organization. Take care.